Russia's president says Moscow has placed an initial group of tactical nuclear weapons in neighboring Belarus. Vladimir Putin told a forum the weapons would only be used if Russia's territory or state were threatened. The U.S. government says there's no indication that Russia plans to use nuclear weapons to attack Ukraine. Belarus is a key Russian ally, and its territory was used to help launch the invasion of Ukraine last year. Meantime, the Ukrainian counteroffensive against Russian forces has begun. Ukraine says it has made some gains in the south, but Russia disputes that, saying Ukrainian forces have suffered heavy losses in the last 24 hours. For more, we have once again reached Daniel Bilak. He's a Canadian-Ukrainian lawyer who lives in Kyiv and is a member of the Territorial Defense Unit. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on your show.
We have, of course, spoken several times throughout the war. Before we get into the counteroffensive, and of course we do want to speak about that, I do want to get your thoughts on what we were just sharing there, some of Vladimir Putin's comments about nuclear weapons in Belarus. How concerning is the threat?
Well, look, I mean, putting them in Belarus or putting them 100 kilometers further back into Russia really doesn't change any sort of strategic calculation as to their use. And secondly, there's been no indication, certainly the Americans monitor this stuff carefully, that they've actually been moved. He's a bluffer. He's been bluffing all along. He's been setting red lines that every time we cross them, nothing happens. This is just another desperate move on his part to try to get the West to be nervous and to stop supplying Ukraine with weapons. And, I have to say that all along he's been reasonably successful. He's weaponized the fear of the West in a lot of ways, and it's cost us lives. When we don't get weapons because people are afraid to give them to us, it means more of our guys die.
The long-awaited counteroffensive, of course, Daniel, has now started. I'm wondering if you can help us understand a little bit about how people in Kyiv and across the country more broadly, how they're feeling about it.
I think there's general relief that it's underway. We didn't expect, as some of my colleagues in the West, they call up saying, "What's going wrong with your counteroffensive?" And I said, "Nothing." Everybody expects a Hollywood blockbuster where, within an hour or two, the whole thing is over with. This is going to be a drawn-out affair, and Ukrainians are ready for this. I think that we had training this morning with my unit. It's costing us lives. We've had 3 funerals in our village in the last month. In fact, one just yesterday from somebody from Zaporizhia front line. So we are paying a heavy price there, but so are they. And look, anytime the Russian lips are moving, they're lying. That should be the general assumption. We are moving forward. We've only used about a quarter of our assault potential to this point in time, and we're probing. We're probing along a 1,000-kilometer line. They don't know where we're actually going to strike, and that's what's going on here now. Is that we're trying to get them to commit forces in certain areas where we can take tactical advantage in others. And for anybody who is still wondering who done it on the blowing up the Kakhovka Dam, virtually all of those troops have been moved from Kherson into the support on Zaporizhia and Donetsk. So it's pretty clear what the purpose of blowing up the dam by the Russians were. They're a terrorist state, and they'll continue to operate as such.
How long do you think this sort of protracted battle can go on for? Of course, the counteroffensive has now started. The Russians claim that they are trying to counter it, that they are doing so forcefully. How long do you think this sort of back and forth can go on for?
Well, I mean, frankly, there's not a lot of force on their part. They're defending. We're pushing forward. We've taken ground in Donetsk and in Zaporizhia. It's not easy because they mined a lot of it. We're pursuing what we've been trained by NATO forces to do, which is called combined arms warfare, where you combine your infantry, your armor, your artillery, and your planes to attack the enemy. The problem we have is they won't give us planes. So we're sort of going in with one hand tied behind our back. Hopefully that will get resolved. But, so long as our allies stick with us and continue to supply us with what we need, we are going to take this to the end. We cannot leave him, as President Zelensky has repeatedly said, we cannot leave him on 1 square inch of Ukrainian territory. or he's just going to come back and he's going to go further and he's going to attack NATO countries, and that's when Canadian soldiers die. So we need Canada's continued help and our allies' continued help to basically defeat the Russian army totally on Ukrainian soil. I think, frankly, if we continue to get the level of support we've got, and I'm certainly not sitting at the headquarters of the General Staff, but there's a strong feeling that we can get this done certainly by early next year, if not the end of this year.
There's also this delegation of African countries, South Africa leading the way here. A peace mission is what they've been calling this. We were just showing just a moment ago some of those images of some of those leaders arriving in Ukraine. How optimistic are you that this could bring an end to the war?
Well, I don't think it'll bring an end to the war. I mean, anybody who comes with a peace proposal that says leave Russians on your territory, including Crimea, is more of an appeasement plan or a piecemeal plan than a peace plan, or a pause plan, if you like. But I think it's very important, actually, that they came, because we need the support of the so-called Global South. They all have votes in the United Nations. We need to have the dialogue with them. The fact that they came, the fact that they ended up being subjected to a missile attack while they were in Kyiv, they got a taste of what life is like here on a daily basis. And, I think it's actually a huge diplomatic coup for Ukraine and for the president, for the foreign minister, and for our diplomats, that they've got these guys coming over here and talking. Yeah, they're in Moscow today. Putin's not interested in a real peace plan, and that's really the fundamental problem. We can have a negotiation once the Russians have left Ukrainian territory. We can talk about anything they want. But I think it's important to engage the African states in a dialogue. We feed most of their people. We feed 400 million people around the world, the vast majority of which are in Africa. So they have a direct interest in the outcome of this this war.
Daniel, as always, so great to talk with you. Great to get your perspective, your thoughts on all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
Daniel Bilak for us.